online personality tests. It amazes me now that people still think that Myers-Briggs personalities are all about taking an online test and finding out your result. For some reason, this one test on the HumanMetrics website seems to be the most popular. I'm pretty sure it's only because it happens to be the first thing that comes up when you Google personality test. So, because it's the first result, it's the one that everyone clicks on, so it ends up being Google's top results. So it's basically self-fulfilling. This is the test to take. But in reality, the test itself is horrible. And I'm going to prove it to you by taking it myself. Okay, now, I know I'm an ISTP. I've confirmed it in multiple ways. I've been studying MBTI and the cognitive functions for months. I've done a lot of self-evaluation and introspection and learning to understand my cognitive processes that affect my behavior. I've even had my type confirmed by trained psych type professionals that I've had video chats with. So I'm confident I'm an ISTP, and I understand the theory behind the cognitive preferences that these tests are supposed to be looking for. So with that in mind, I'm going to go through all these questions on this HumanMetrics test and see what's really going on here. Okay, so this particular test has 72 questions, or rather 72 statements about yourself, and you're supposed to click yes or no to whether it's true. And already I have a problem with that, because these are not black and white statements. You'll see what I mean. Okay, question 1. You are almost never late for your appointments. Okay, that's true. Yes, I am almost never late for appointments, because, see, to me, appointments are like the important things, like job interviews or doctor's appointments. I'm late for pretty much everything else, but appointments? I'm usually pretty on time. I'm answering yes, and that's gonna score J for me. Okay, question 2. Number 4, you feel involved when watching TV soaps. No. And this question is a problem for the feelers who don't watch TV soaps. I'm assuming that's what this question's about, whether you're a thinker or a feeler. Question 5. You are more interested in a general idea than the details of its realization. Okay, see, this is the typical intuition versus sensing. Okay, see, here's the problem. Questions like this typically trip up sensors because we're like, yeah, I like to look at both the details and the general idea. I mean, who's going to want to ignore the general idea? You know, it's not like we sensors are going to be like, oh, I'm just going to focus on these details and I'm not going to care why. No, we're going to look at both. Number 7, strict observance of the established rules is likely to prevent a good outcome. What the heck? And apparently the person who wrote this test thinks that anyone who's not an SJ is going to answer yes. Everyone else thinks breaking the rules is always the right thing to do. I mean, come on, I'm an SP, and I know that rules are usually made for a reason. I don't always follow the rules, but it doesn't mean that I think the rules are going to prevent a good outcome. Number 9, it's difficult to get you excited. What? What? Ironically, it is difficult to get me excited. Number 10. Number 11. You 12. You believe the best decision is one that can be easily changed. Apparently another J versus P question. My problem is the way this question is worded. It says you believe the best decision is one that can be easily changed. If it's really the best decision, why would I want to change it? I'm more likely to not jump to the conclusion that it's the best decision. If I do figure out that something is a best decision, then to me that is the best decision. It is not one that can be easily changed. Number 13, objective criticism is always useful in any activity. It is not. See, again, it's really bad wording. Objective criticism is always useful in any activity? No. I know there are situations in which objective criticism has to be put aside. Number 14, you prefer to trust reason rather than feel. You are inclined to rely more on improvisation than on careful planning. Okay, now I know this test was written by a judger. I prefer to have the option of being able to improvise, but I don't rely on it. Number 17, you usually plan your actions in advance. See, the thing is, I usually do. I do have some sort of plan. See, they're not understanding perceivers. I do have, some sort of idea in mind of what I'm going to do, but I just like to leave it open-ended. Number 19, your actions are frequently influenced by emotions. This was definitely written by a thinker. Really, how many feelers are going to answer yes to this? Number 20, you are a person. Number 21, after prolonged socializing. Number 26, you easily 28, you find it difficult. Number 30, you tend to sympathize. Number 34, you tend to rely on your experience rather than on theoretical alternatives. Generally, it's the SJs who rely on their experience, and it's NTs and NFs who rely on theoretical alternatives. SPs don't rely on either, really. we just kind of go with the flow and just take things as they come. Which do I rely more on? It depends on the situation. I guess if I'm too lazy to think about it, then I'll rely on experience. So yes. Number 36. Number 37. You are more inclined to experiment than to follow familiar approaches. Again, depends on the situation. Number 40. 42. Deadlines seem to you to be of relative rather than absolute importance. This is definitely written by a judger who thinks that perceivers are irresponsible and defiant. I respect deadlines. I recognize their importance. That's why they're called deadlines. Number 43. 44. It's essential for you to try things. You do your best to complete a task on time. Again, these judges. See, they think perceivers don't do their best to finish on time. I'm not going to go there. 47. You take 49. You have good control. You easily understand new theoretical principles. Alright. An intelligence question. Number 51. The process of searching for a solution is more important to you than the solution itself. What? 52. You usually, when solving a problem, you would rather follow a familiar approach than seek a new one. It depends on the situation. 54. You try to stand firmly by your principles. This question doesn't even make sense. Come on. Number 56. You prefer meetings. You consider the scientific approach to be the best. Approach to what? Number 60. You often 61. Your decisions are 63. You feel more comfortable sticking to conventional ways. That's a very SJ. And guess what? Guess what my answer is? It depends on the situation. See, the key word for me in this question is comfortable. And conventional ways to me are comfortable. But comfortable is not necessarily better. 64, you are easily 65, you are always 70, you are consistent in your 71, habits. You willingly involve 72, yourself. You easily perceive various ways in which events could develop. No. Alright, that's it, so score it. And guess what? My result, ISTJ, just like I always mistyped You have a strong preference of introversion over extroversion, 89%. You have a distinctive preference of sensing over intuition, 62%. You have a strong preference of thinking over feeling. You have a moderate preference of judging over perceiving, 44%. So, but still, that's way more of a judging preference than I really have. So, not surprisingly, I ended up scoring ISTJ on this test, the same type that I mistyped as for several years, and I can pretty much see why. This test seems to be biased towards judging and somewhat intuition. And basically what that means is if you really know nothing about yourself and you take this test and answer every question correctly, then you'll end up with something like INTJ. So if you take this test and you score INTJ or ISTJ, don't believe it. Now, if you really are an INTJ or an ISTJ, you'll probably get an accurate result. And also, I'm guessing if you score F, then it means you really are an F. If you score P, it means you really are a P. But if you score T, it could mean just about anything. If you score J, it could mean anything. So now you may be wondering, are there any reliable online personality tests? Well, I've actually heard from somebody who's actually taken the official MBTI, the one you have to pay for, and from what he said, it sounds like it's not much better than these common online free tests. Really, though, I believe you really need to have a trained, licensed practitioner to guide you through this test so you can actually understand what the questions are really asking. Otherwise, you'll end up doing what I did and just like take these questions literally and just misunderstand what they're really trying to ask. But really, the best thing you can do is just learn about the real theory behind Carl Jung's psychological types. Learn about the cognitive functions. Basically, don't rely on these tests. Now, maybe you're thinking you just have no interest in doing that. You just took this online personality test just for fun, and you're satisfied with whatever result you got. Well, just know that if you claim to be a certain type based on nothing other than the fact that you took this online test, especially if it's the HumanMetrics test that I just demonstrated, just know, whatever type you say you are, I am not going to believe you. So, you have been warned.